Welcome back to the Battery Podcast. I'm Aiden,
I'm Jack.
And I'm Casey.
and we are very excited to, in a moment, welcome back to the pod Dan Arestia, a couple years after his first time on, to just talk about what the Cannons should be looking for in the draft, who we should be citing, scouting this college season. But before that, we're going to talk about this with him as well. The PLL schedule dropped today as we're recording, Wednesday, February 4th, like game by game. So. I think there are a lot of surprises in there. I honestly don't know where to begin. Um, so Jack or Casey, anywhere you want to start?
Yeah, well, I'll get this out of the way first in that it's very exciting that the matchups dropped because every bit of information we get brings us closer to the season, just and getting to watch the games, which is what we all really want to do.
Absolutely.
Having said that, basically everything else I have to say is negative. So we'll just I don't think my first reaction was Woods whips again in Boston is a major bummer.
Yeah.
Um 3 years in a row that we've gotten the Woods, and yeah, everybody loves to hate the whips, but the fact that we are yet again missing out on the Boston Philly rivalry and that we've never gotten a Boston New York, especially with the Atlas technically being Long Island this
Yep.
year, making it even more of like the actual New Boston New York rivalry is just a massive miss by the league. And I know in a lot of leagues, you talk about this whole puzzle piece, but everybody's in the same spot every weekend, so there's not even like a logistical thing really. Like it's just one team that's not coming. So the fact that not only are we not getting Philly and New York, which I think would be the two best matchups for Boston to get, the fact that it's just literally rinse and repeating the matchups last year, which were already underwhelming when they announced them, is just definitely lets a little bit of air out of the balloon, I think, as a Cannons fan, that, oh, we're seeing the same teams that we saw last year. Like,
Yeah.
whoop-de-doo.
Yeah. Obviously, you hope for different results, but yeah, like you said, Jack, beginning at the end, kind of disappointing given this tour-based model. You feel like you want to have different matchups every year, especially when one team isn't making the trip. I'll have to. Okay, so we are seeing the Outlaws. We did not see the Outlaws in Denver or in Boston last year. Yeah, that's obviously not priority number one. I would rather, if the Cannons play one of those teams, but yeah, like you said, to give them Boston or Philly or to not give them Boston or Philly in Harvard, pretty disappointing. No, yeah, yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think we both do. It's kind of disappointing to see those two matchups again. Um, Especially when, like last year, that was the end of the season. It was the last week of the regular season. This year, it is not. So that'll be Boston's last two games of the year, but the league will still go on for another week in Philly. Um, yeah,
Yeah, and you kind of just alluded to it there. So first off, Philly not coming to Boston at all because they've got their homecoming the next weekend, and as you just said, Cannons are ending their season in Boston, meaning that they will not be in Philly the following weekend. So, for the Philly fans that also want to really lean into that Boston Philly rivalry, they got it last year, but now both cities aren't even going to see their biggest rival play at all in the city. Just a massive miss
yeah.
by the league.
Um, Flipping back to the beginning of the schedule, um, I think I won't say the weirdest because there are a lot of weird things about this, but as well, not every team, but some teams have kind of two homecomings, two weekends where they play twice. Um, so going back to the beginning of the calendar, Because also the Cannons are the team that gets that bye week, week one, because they're opening in Utah. So Utah plays twice. That's a bummer. Obviously, like you said, every team should play the first and last week of the season. I totally agree with that. So the Cannons go from training camp to bye week, and then they play twice in Rhode Island. Um, they do play the Water Dogs there, so we kind of get that. I
That's
would,
true.
yeah, that'll definitely be a huge pro Boston crowd. The Argers then they play twice week one, and then they have a bye that following week. Also important to mention, the WLL schedule came out today, so the first game of the WLL calendar will be um, New York and Boston in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. That'll be on Saturday in between the two PLL games. So. Um, yeah, I know Boston gets like two homecomings, two home games from that, but yeah, to see two weekends where the Cannons play twice, which I have to check the calendar, but I gotta think not every team gets that. I don't believe so. Um, I know I just looked. I saw California gets it.
Mhm.
Um, who else? Carolina gets it. They play twice in Columbus. California and Carolina play twice in Columbus.
Well, and Philly plays twice in Denver.
Yeah,
So, like, it's not even limited to just the neutral site games. That Denver's homecoming is going to have two Philadelphia games.
yeah.
What are we doing here?
Yeah. This is we should try to get Mike or Paul to come on again to answer some questions about this. I think again, hopefully when we bump it to Dan in a couple minutes, I'll have some more answers for us. But yeah, this is weird. Not even taking into account some weekends there's like Columbus, there's five games that weekend. So you have two on Friday, two on Saturday, one on Sunday. And oh, Denver is also five games, right? Because of that. But
Yeah.
Long Island, there's only three games. So the what was it? The Chaos and the Water Dogs don't play at all on Long Island. And now I assume it's like venue related availability, but I don't know, like you're playing Friday and Saturday, like 6 and 8:30, and then geez, they play at 9 p.m. on Saturday in New York. 6:30 and 9. Like maybe they just couldn't get it earlier. Maybe it's being used for a clinic or camp or something. But that feels like you gotta have a fourth game for the PLL weekend that day on Long Island. It's very weird. Um, yeah,
Yeah, I mean there is the WLL game there, so I'm looking through and at least there is some it seems like there is some sort of logic of the 3 game weekends are weekends where there is a WLL game, and the 5 game weekends are weekends where there is not a WLL game. So there's no weekends where you're being gypped completely and only getting 3 lacrosse games. And it doesn't look like there's any weekends where it's just lacrosse overload with 6 games. But yeah, I'm obviously the matchups aside, having more games and being the touring model that the PL is, it's obviously a logistical nightmare. I don't envy Mike and Paul and the schedule makers having to sort out all these logistics. Even just discussing it right now, I'm starting to get a headache. And but it's still just it doesn't feel right. Like I don't know what the solution is immediately, but looking through it, my gut reaction is just like this could have been put together better. Like there something is missing here.
yeah. Not to mention for like trying to get fans to like follow along with the league, this makes it a lot more confusing. Where the Cannons now have two bye weeks plus that bye week around Memorial Day and in June that the whole league has.
Yeah.
Um, where I feel like there's a good chance that people are going to miss a game because they'll be like, wait, why the hell are the Redwoods playing twice in Columbus? They're playing Friday and Sunday. You're gonna be like, either you have the Friday game and then maybe you hear something on the broadcast and catch the Sunday game. But if you happen to see the Sunday game first, you're like, wait, what do you mean they played 2 days ago? Because why would they be playing twice in Columbus? Um,
I don't know.
yeah. Um, yeah, it's oh Jack, I was just looking at the California times. Aren't you glad the Cannons don't have that 11 p.m. start?
Oh, what
Gosh.
were they again? I forgot. What is it? San Diego. I'm When are they? 4 p.m. on Saturday.
4 p.m.
That's that's 4 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, no, that's beautiful. And even Denver is Saturday at 2. I mean, literally, I think and they're not even in Salt Lake. What's our latest game? 8 p.m. in Rhode Island. I know there's an 8 p.m. homecoming game too. Like, yeah, as an early to bed man myself, I can do an 8 p.m. game on a Saturday night, but 11 p.m. you're really asking for it there.
Yeah, it's gonna be a late night for those who choose to stay up. I mean, at least one of those teams is Utah, but for those Philly fans, or I mean, I know I'm gonna be watching it unless I'm like sick or something. So
Mhm.
it's gonna be a late night. Um, yeah, all right, let's switch to the WLL side rather, because
Yeah.
what we were told was we were getting a full, I forget if they said 8 or 10 week season.
I don't know if they ever specified. They just said a full summer season, I
I
think.
think there was a week number thrown around. And then last week when we saw, 8 weekends plus that championship weekend, we kind of assumed, given that it's 4 teams, that there'd be 2 games per weekend. Maybe they do a homecoming thing, but maybe because it's so small, it's not. It is very much not. You might have caught it as we're mentioning it. There is one WLL game per weekend. So the Boston Guard schedule, May 16th in Rhode Island, June 6th in Charlotte. They don't play again until July 17th in Fairfield. And in that game, they'll be playing a Maryland Charm team who just played the week before. Um, so, maybe
Yikes.
he could a factor for that game if someone got hit real bad. But, I got to think, even if they're coming to practice all those other weekends in between, they're going to be pretty rusty. Because then also July 17th, the next game is not until August 8th. That's the Boston homecoming, the last game of the year. And then, of course, hopefully they're playing in Philly next week for the championship. Um, yeah, this is not. So it's 4 total games. They play California twice and they play Maryland and New York once.
I feel like I got duped a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just going back through because you made the point about Maryland playing the week before. The Palms, who the Cannons play the Palms at on homecoming weekend, Saturday, August 8th.
Oh,
The
yeah.
Palms previous game is their homecoming on Saturday, June 27th.
Yeah.
That's a month and a half.
Yeah. And some of those players will be in the All-Star game, obviously, but even that's July 5th. So I mean, yeah, that just doesn't seem.
And then it's 4 games too. Like
Yeah.
that's the other thing that I'm so confused about. So with the WLL, that they chose to have 4 games. So you have one game against the other 3 teams, and then you just randomly have a second game against the fourth team. Why not 6 games so that it's two against all of them? Going
Yeah.
back to the PLL, the 10 games, 10 is such a beautiful round number. And it made sense. You have 2 games against your conference opponents, which gets you 6, and then one against each of the other conference to get to 10. They added the 2 extra games by throwing in 2 games against the opposite conference. So you're still two against, for us, the two against the other 3 East teams. And now you have 2 games against 2 West teams and 2 games against 2 non-West teams. And it's like, why are we doing that then? Like, why did we not go to 14 games and just play everybody twice. Like,
Yeah.
lot of questions, logistically speaking here.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm sure like there are a lot of probably really boring practical answers or just like, the number of hours they can use a facility in a weekend and the budget to bring all these players out there every weekend. Like I understand there are like boring realities that we don't want to come to grips with, but
Those are the things I want to know.
yeah, no, I think and I think it would be
At
good to
least it would
know
make
them.
it make sense.
Yeah, like obviously the PL doesn't want to say like sorry, we can't afford to fly everyone out every weekend. Like
That's
that's a
true.
message that they should not tell us if that's the actual reason. But
I also think about how a lot of the, or a number of the players in the WLL, I believe, are coaches.
hmm,
And so if, and I have no idea what percentage of the players from the WLL are, but I know I follow a lot of them on like social media, and that's where I'm getting my facts from right now. But I mean, you got to think about like trying to plan around that. Like if this is the very first season and it really kind of just like got a little rush to begin last year, it's like it's the league's been hard launched, yes, but this is sort of like a soft launch at the same time. And the
Mm.
girls already have all these prior commitments, it seems. I don't
yeah,
know.
that is a
That's why
good
I
point.
want to know like what goes into the decision making of this and planning and everything. I would really love. I'm like I nerd out about that stuff.
Yeah, that is a very good point, practically speaking. Like, I think the games are all like Fridays and Saturdays, for the WLL. Maybe there's a Sunday in there that I'm not seeing, but like, yeah, maybe it's just like the number of Fridays that they could reasonably have people take PTO off, or like the number of, camps or clinics or tournaments on these travel teams that the people are coaching, or a lot of them probably coaching high schools and colleges too, that they could like afford to miss. Um, so that is something good to take into account, and hopefully with more, more run up in 2027 and beyond, um, we'll get at least a 6 game schedule. Now, obviously, like we all want expansion too. Not gonna cry for that right now, but it feels like, I'm sure the PLL wants that as soon as possible as well, um, to get to a schedule that makes a little bit more sense and has a little bit more regularity than the one we're getting now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else you either of you want to add before we kick it over to Dan?
I mean, listen,
I
there's definitely things that we're disappointed in with the schedule for especially the PLL we talked a lot about, but I am so happy that we get our guys here in New England twice as much, three times as much as we normally do. Um, in our backyard in Rhode Island, and then here in Boston, and then Fairfield, just a stone's throw away. Um, Long Island, if you're feeling really adventurous, I don't think I am, but I'm just super excited that still at the end of the day, we're going to be able to see our guys
Yeah.
play in person significantly more this season. And next season, who knows what that's going to bring. But for this season, I'm excited to see our boys back in uniform playing out there.
Yeah. Very well put. Very positive note to end on as we kick it over to Dan. Yeah, all right. Here comes our conversation with Dan Arestia. And thank you to one of the busiest media members in all of lacrosse, Dan Arestia, for coming on. Dan, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Always great to be talking with the battery. Nice to see you guys again.
Thank you. Yeah, nice to see you as well. All right. I guess because it just came out today as we're recording this, PLL schedule came out game by game. Um, some double buys, some double homecomings as a, kind of as a matter. Some 3 game weekends, some 5 game weekends. I guess any kind of thoughts or insights you might have had from someone in the league as to, or I guess just opinions on how the schedule is laid out so far.
Yeah, I think, there's things that I think we're due to change. We're not starting the year in Albany, right? We're starting the year in Utah, which is different. I think as you look at like the way homecoming weekends were being done, where if it's your homecoming weekend, you play twice, you have to think sooner or later the Atlas would be like, look, we can't start every single season with a doubleheader, so can we please mix this up a little bit? So they get their wish. You get to start out west, which I think is cool. That's a great community and a great crowd out there. That's certainly, earned themselves an opening weekend. So I like that change of opening out in Utah. I love that they are back in Chicago again, particularly when you consider that WLL games are going to be played at
Hmm.
a venue that's like iconic in the women's lacrosse world and where PLL had a lot of success last year. So that was like a slam dunk to me. Um, there was one venue or one stop that I thought was a little different when it came out and everything, but Providence is an interesting one to me. Providence, Rhode Island. Just because look, I'm a Connecticut guy. You guys know you're Boston. Like none of us are all that far from Providence. So like us going to Providence, like sure, reasonable, but the casual fan in Connecticut would are they going to go to both? Are they going to
Hmm.
pick to just go in their backyard and then be like, I saw PLL, I'm not going to go to Providence. So like, it's a market that you would expect to draw on Connecticut and Massachusetts, maybe even some New York crowd, but all of that crowd already has their own weekend to go to. So like, is just Rhode Island alone, just the local Rhode Island crowd gonna pack Providence? We'll see, I guess. But that was kind of an interesting choice to me for that reason. Otherwise, I haven't like gotten super deep into the granular nature of it yet. The places where I always look to see where things get weird is who has the bye right before or right after the All-Star break is always an interesting one because that usually means, and you guys might have already talked about this, but that usually means that that team is going to be having an extended break of some kind or another. And while there's like buys for everybody built in this year, like the buy for just one team that's that long could be weird.
Yeah.
Ask Coach Stagnetta what he thought about it last year when the Whips didn't play for 3 weeks and then came out to play a game and their first half was gross. Like that kind of thing matters. So always looking to see that kind of stuff. But on the whole, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with the schedule, I think.
Yeah. Um, there's some great thoughts. Talking of buys, we were looking at the WLL schedule, which is, I think, even stranger, kind
Interesting.
of based on what we thought going into this. So the Boston Guard are going to play against California in Charlotte, June 6th. Their next game is in Fairfield on July 17th. And then even worse for California. So they play that June 6th game, or sorry, they play June 27th, their homecoming. Their next game, not until August 8th in Boston. That is,
Yeah. A lot of time to look at the film
yeah,
and evaluate what went right and what went wrong and get better for the next one. Um, I think like look, I would love to see more of those WL games. When I had first heard of what the schedule was going to be, I thought each team was playing 10 games, but it doesn't
yeah,
look like that's actually kind of how this is going. So, look, I think the bummer is going to be for the folks in places where they were hoping to maybe see a Charlotte North or see a superstar of the women's game, Emily Harris, Chuck, whoever, play, and it turns out maybe they won't get to. And that's been something that can be tricky for the men's side too, where like sometimes your team on a bye is not going to be there when the PLL comes to your town. But in this case, like you really got to plan it if you're trying to see a particular women's team to make sure you're there, and you just kind of have to hope that they're near you. So agree on that. I think the hope is that you want it to be very well attended, and you want it to be something that's successful because the key to having them play more games and do all that stuff is people have to show them that there's an appetite for it, right? So if you go out to a WL game this year and make sure those stands are packed, bring a friend with you, buy a jersey, like engage with the league and everything to show to them we want more of this. There's more of an appetite for this. The women's sports world is showing that with their fandom all the time now. You just saw it with women's basketball where you had Unrivaled League and that 3v3. It was like they're putting 20,000 people in the building. It's some of the best attended women's basketball games that we've seen in ages. So there's appetite for it in women's sports. I think if the WLL fans show up and show, yeah, we're into this too, then people take notice of that and they give people more of what they would want.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. And, very natural opportunity for us to plug. If you are going to watch one of those WLL Championship Series game, please come to Drawdown Brewing in Jamaica Plain to watch it with us and all the rest of the Battery crew. We are excited, and hopefully we'll be continuing that on for the non-Providence and Boston games of the WLL season as well. Um, yeah, I guess Jack or Casey, anywhere you want to go next?
Yeah, I mean, just we'll just go high level. College lacrosse just started this past weekend, week 0, getting into week 1 now. I want to ask you from a PLL lens, from a Cannons fan lens, how should I watch college lacrosse this year? What are the players and teams that I need to be aware of?
I mean, yeah, college lacrosse, it kind of started. Like we attempted to
Sort
start.
of.
There was
Yeah.
an effort made at starting to play college lacrosse. Most of it was postponed or moved indoors and nobody got to watch, but that's a whole other podcast. Um, I think if you're a Cannons fan, look, you need to think about what your needs are. You need to think about where you're drafting, right? Like if you're talking about who you're going to be after, the Cannons are picking second, which is I don't think anywhere close to maybe where we expected. I'm sure you guys didn't expect to be picking second, but
No.
they're picking second because of some deals. They have a bunch of picks. They pick, second in the first round, second in the second round. They own Denver's second round pick, so they got that pick at the end of the second round. They own the best of Carolina's third round picks, so they have another pick there. So there's opportunity for them to really have a lot of bites at the apple. I think if you're the Cannons, you have to consider needs, which are Bryce Young has retired. I believe that's like official, right? I didn't miss
Yeah.
that being actually
Yes.
announced. Okay, Bryce Young retired. You might have some other departures on the defensive end. I feel like you can consider yourselves rock solid in the long stick midfield spot. You have OG and you have Ethan Rawl. You can be like, we're going to battle. We're good with those two. But down low, you're probably looking for some help. To me, picking second, I would have been looking at two guys right up until a few days ago. I would have been looking at Bobby Van Buren and Will Schaller. Bobby Van Buren from Ohio State, Will Schaller from Maryland. Very unfortunate news is that BVB tore his ACL a week ago and is going to miss the season. And compounding that is now there's kind of a question around draft status for him because he can apply for like a waiver from the NCAA because he didn't play it all this year to maybe get another year. So he may be back at Ohio State next year and not even available to be drafted. So in a way, that's a bummer because you don't get a shot at drafting a guy as talented as him. In a nice way, to me, it kind of makes it easy, right? I think Will Schaller would be the guy. I'm just going, yes, please give me him. You have a Schmeiser level defenseman, first team All American, and you can't really go wrong drafting Tillman guys, drafting Maryland guys. You're always going to get somebody who's smart, who's efficient, who's well coached, who plays clean, who can fit into a system and can understand what's going on. I remember a couple years ago I was talking to, I don't know if you guys were there at the New England Youth Lacrosse Convention. This is now like a few years ago. I don't know if you guys were at the one that just happened, but I was talking to a coach there who had been around the pro game for a long time, and he was like, "Look, if you're ever in doubt in the draft a Maryland midfielder. Like you're gonna get somebody who's good two ways and is smart and can do a lot of things right. And the same to me is true with Maryland defensemen. You're gonna get like you're not gonna get the guy whose highlights are gonna be blasted out with dubstep playing behind him as he like throws over the head checks. Like that's not gonna happen with Will Schaller. But you're gonna get like Matt Dunn. You're gonna get like Ajax. You're gonna get guys like that where it's just put him on an island and be like, he's going to be fine. He's going to be okay. So for the Cannons, I'm looking a lot at the defensive end. I think if you want to start thinking on the other end of the field, you can start wondering if Marcus Holman will ever get old. So far, he has not been able to get old. It's been something that he's defied. And he still shoots remarkably well. So you obviously like in Sharpie, he's going to be there this year if he wants to be, but I think you need to consider maybe a righty attackman of the future kind of thing. Asher's still there, and you just drafted Coulter Mackesy on the left side. So the attack elsewhere is pretty solid. The midfield is, Matt Campbell's still there, so you're feeling solid. Ryan Drenner can do everything, and he's signed again. So like that side of the field to me is good enough that you can feel good about it. I would look maybe at another righty attackman. I know there's probably some talk like, does this roster need a shake up a little bit? Does something need to change? Because it's like we've tried this roster a few years now, can't get over the hump with it. So maybe something's got to change. But I'm of the opinion that the margins are so narrow in the PLL that sometimes it's just like you could go up there with this roster again this year and like just be a little luckier and you'll be there in the finals. You know what I mean? Like the Archers were a back-to-back champion, and then this year, just like injuries kind of tore them apart. And even though they were still a really good team, like they're picking first overall now. Like that's the difference between being at the top and being at the bottom. Sometimes some injuries get you, and you get a couple bad bounces, and you're looking at the first overall draft pick. So to me, like the shake-up thing, maybe not yet. But draft-wise, yeah, I'm looking at Will Schaller. I'm looking at a Will Donovan. I'm looking at an Alex Ross from Penn State. Defensemen like that are certainly premium guys.
Hmm. Um, we'll go back to the Cannons in a second, but bringing up the Archers in the number one overall pick, do you think Jack's favorite player, Joey Spallina, makes it past the Archers and past the Cannons?
Um, I'm not breaking news here, and I'm not saying this has even been talked about or that this is happening or anything. I'm not sure that the Archers are the ones making the first overall pick. Um, I like look, man, like we all know who Joe Spallina is, right? Like
Yep.
this is his kid we're talking about. You know what I mean? Like I'm sure that will be explored, fit or not for the Redwoods, fit or not wherever. Like to me, that'll be something where those conversations I'm sure are going to happen.
Yeah.
That said, for the Archers, it's an interesting thing because you look at where the needs are for them, and it's really not like Joey, right?
Yeah.
Joey is a natural attackman who's going to be at his best behind the cage and kind of running things from there. And you have a team that's already got a Connor Fields, a Grant Ament, a Matt Moore. They are deep with the attackman as it is. Mac O'Keefe, right? Like there's a lot of attackmen already out there. And on the other side of things, you have Tom Schreiber, who's going to be coming back from some serious knee rehab, and is not getting younger. And you could probably use some help in the midfield. You really could use some midfield production there. So to me, like if I'm the Archers, a guy like Mikey Weishar makes a ton of sense. We've all seen now the clips of Matt Collison at Hopkins, how he started the year, and Quint mentioning how people are salivating over him. And it's like, yes, pro teams, indoors and outdoors, all want a whole lot of Matt Collison if they can get it. But like, a midfielder like him, like Weishar, guys like that, to me make more sense for the Archers than drafting another attackman so you can play an attackman out of position again. If you wind up with a roster that just has a bunch of a converted attackman at the midfield, it's usually not a recipe for success.
Yeah, that's one of the things that's driven me craziest about pro lacrosse over the years is just trying to take all these, especially X guys, and bring them. Like Ryan Drenner is really the exception. Um, but
Yeah, it's very common when people are talking about these attack while they're in college, and it's like, well, should they get drafted? And the take is just like, yeah, I'll just run out of the box. Like it's just really easy to just do that, to just become a midfielder, just be a pro midfielder. Like it's not that easy. It's not just flipping things upside down. Like it's really different. So yeah, it's not easy to do.
yeah, yeah, I think your point of I'm sure Joe Spallina, I don't know, will be offering to buy all the bottles of wine that Chris Page wants if he can
Yeah.
make whatever deal. Um, but to go back for the Cannons, I think we were not necessarily surprised to see them sign a new faceoff guy to bring to camp in Tommy Burke. Are there any other Fogos that that the Cannons should have their eye on going into this college season?
If you're looking for a guy to draft, I think there's a few options. There's Henry Dodge, who was at Vermont and last spring led the nation at faceoff percentage, was north of 70, and went to Maryland in the portal this offseason, and he'll be there with the Terps, and you'll get to see him play against the best of the best. So there's a good chance for Henry to be somebody that you consider out of the draft. And then there are kind of some under the radar guys where you kind of want to see what they do against, top flight players. Guys like a Luca Accardo at High Point, if he's available in the draft, has been like all American level good, but maybe doesn't get as much of the shine because he's an A10 guy and not in the big leagues or whatever. But To me, I think Dodge is kind of the first guy on the list I would look for at the faceoff spot.
Cool. Yeah, we'll hope Coach Holman hears this, but I'm sure. So yeah, I remember we had him on one time. He's like, I don't really know much about the face-off game, so I just really refer to other people's kind of expert opinions on that. Well,
Yeah. If
yeah,
you're in doubt, go ask Jerry, man. Jerry knows it all.
yep,
Jerry evaluates the guys to be pro better than anybody.
yeah. All right, I'll have to check his Twitter after this. See, yeah, see what he thinks they should do. Um, yeah, Jack or Casey, I don't want to monopolize the conversation here.
Casey, you're up.
Okay, so we don't, or I don't get to often talk about this very much on the podcast. I'm sure Aiden knows where I'm going. Um, so I'm a big NLL fan as well. Very, very big fan. Um, so I wanted to just talk a little bit about like what players that are currently in the NLL that have not yet ever played in the PLL. Um, are there any that you would really want to see try coming over to the PLL and dipping their toes in the water a little bit?
Guys who aren't
Um,
doing both or who have never done both.
right. Yeah, so
Um,
not any of the guys who have, been in the PLL and now play in the NLL and elsewhere, but
for guys who have like never ever done it, I would love to see Mitch Jones play
Mm.
outdoors if he was up for it. I think Mitch Jones is an easy one. Like his vision and his passing ability is like absolutely off the charts. He's super fun to watch. Um, let's see. Brendan Bomberry, maybe. He was a really quality player at Syracuse, and
Mhm.
I don't know if he did a little bit with the MLL, I think, and
Yeah, I
I
think you're right.
know he might have been on some rosters here and there in the PLL, but never really kind of made his way into roster regularity. Him getting a shot would be great. Um, there are guys where it's like maybe played in the bubble a little bit and then like didn't really do anything else. Like Curtis Dixon, man, like who wouldn't love to see Curtis Dixon play more PLL ball? Um, so guys like that, usually kind of those offensive players are some of the most fun guys for me. There are a lot of guys that are coming to mind like Curtis, where it's like they played for like a couple of games or here or there, and then they really did nothing. Like Ben McIntosh,
Mm.
played with the Water Dogs a little bit out of the gate, but didn't really play much, I think, after that first bubble season.
Ryan
So,
Lee.
yeah, I mean, Ryan Lee, I think he played when he played for the Redwoods and was able to be healthy. He scored a shitload of goals, and it's
Yeah,
like that's the story of Ryan Lee, man. If when he can stay healthy, he just scores a ton of goals. All the best to Ryan to get out. I know he's dealing with yet another knee injury, so hopefully he's recovering well and we see him again soon. But Ryan Lee is a good one for sure too.
yeah. Yeah, that defensive end is kind of tough because they don't play with poles. You don't know what they would be like. But I remember Colton Watkinson got a run with the Bayhawks in like 2018, 2019. I would just love to see him up in the midfield again. He is so freaking fast.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of my guys I love to watch play defense do play outdoors already, like Hasek, like like Owen Grant. Owen Grant indoors
Mhm.
is like tons of fun to watch. Michael Grace as a rookie is having an incredible year. You
Yeah.
see him kind of in both leagues, so there's a lot of guys like that where I love watching them play defense, and you don't always get to see them, um, or you do, I should say, get to see them play in both leagues.
Yeah. Um,
Talking about the NLL though, and playing in both leagues, what were your thoughts when you learned about the season starting earlier and now pushing more into that overlap? Obviously, I think it kind of, you said it's inevitable. Like at some point, if we want these leagues to get to where we want them to be, everybody's going to have to pick one or the other. But what were your thoughts when it's kind of the PLL makes that first move of, okay, like you guys are going to have to start picking here?
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. I mean, they haven't told them that they have to pick yet, but like the overlaps are what they are, and it's going to be challenging. The season starts. I think those games are that weekend of May 8, 9, and 10. So that's NLL playoffs getting started time. And I know there are some players from who do both that I've been talking to who were running questions by me today about like the NLL playoff format. What was it going to look like? So just so they can get ready to understand, um, how much time they could feasibly miss, how many games they might feasibly miss, should their team make the playoffs and advance and all that. So it's a tough spot for guys to be in. Look at it, it's not even just the NLL guys, right? You got college coaches who are, if their teams make the tournament, then they're going to be coaching on the sideline. Whether that's if BU makes the tournament, then the Chaos won't have Jack Rowlett for the first weekend. If Notre Dame makes the tournament, the Redwoods probably aren't going to have Ryder Garnsey. You can get longer shots if you want to. Like, look, if Brown does something awesome and makes the tournament, Logan Wisnauskas ain't going to be out there. So like it's there, and that's just like the small sample, right? There's a ton of these guys, whether it's like a Matt Witcher or I think the Aslanians still coach. Like it's just a laundry list of these guys who have that as a major part of their lacrosse career, their income, and everything. So it's tough to say. You also have to choose between the NLL and coaching and doing this. So it's unfortunate. I think like to me, I don't love the idea that they have to get told like you got to pick, but if it's happening, I am of the opinion that it's better to rip the Band-Aid off and get it done. In some ways, it might have almost been best to try and do it from jump. I've talked to some league folks about this before, but when the NWSL launched, the Women's Pro Soccer League launched, in the beginning, they told their players, you have to live in market. If you're playing in the league, you're required to live in the market of the team that you're playing for. And we're going to help you out. We're going to get you a housing stipend. We're going to find you a place to live. Nobody's living in a mansion or anything, but we're going to get you a housing stipend so you can live here. And this is what you do. This is your job. You're living in this market, playing for this team. And that's a tough pill to swallow because those wages when that league started were not great, right? Not dissimilar from pro lacrosse wages. So at the beginning, they lost out on some players. They lost out on some really high level college players who said, if that's what I got to do, no thanks. I'm just going to, go start a corporate career or do whatever else they wanted to do. But over time that builds in that community and that builds that franchise probably a little bit better having all those players in market. And then soccer's popularity as it is, helped that league grow tremendously. But now you're in a world where Trinity Rodman signs a deal for $2 million. So like sooner or later that when that Band-Aid gets ripped off, it's just got to happen and it's going to be painful. And you're going to probably lose out on some players that nobody's going to want to see go. And nobody's going to want to see somebody pick the league that they don't watch as much of, or just pick to not be a pro lacrosse player anymore and go do something else or whatever. But you need to get it to that. If you're trying to get to there, then you need to start acting like act as if that's where you want to be.
For sure. Yeah. Dress like the job you want, not the job you have and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When do you think that Band-Aid will be ripped off? I know Paul Rabel talks a lot about the Olympics in 28 as this big sort of marquee moment for the sport. Is that something that happens, you think? Yeah, like is it before it, after it, at that exact time? Like kind of what do you think it's trending towards?
I think that there would be an effort made to capitalize on LA 2028 and like that's that calendar year I would have circled as this is kind of the moment. This is when things kind of got to happen. That would be the year I start looking at to say this is the year where PLL wants to have individually owned franchises, right? Each of these teams is going to have an owner. And when that happens, that means the owner is going to have a venue for that team to play in, and you're going to get a home and away schedule. And we're going to like, I think that LA 2028 is, and I'm not going to speak for Paul or anything, but if it was me, LA 2028 would be the springboard year where I try and make those giant leaps in those league structure kind of aspects of this is where we want to make sure like we capture individual ownership, whether it's, Josiah in California or Ryan Smith in Utah, whoever it is. And you have a true home and away venue at the true home and away schedule. And we use LA to push us into that next level. So I think the year of 2028 is for the Olympics. Obviously it's massive for pro lacrosse. I think trying to capitalize on being in the Olympics and all those eyeballs, I think that's the year you try and get a lot of these big things done.
Yeah. Wish we could step in a time machine and right now. I think we all would love obviously some more Cannons home games, some more games in general. Um,
Mhm.
and yeah, obviously seeing them take that step like the NWSL and the PWHL have done must have just been fantastic for those leagues. Really excited for the Boston Legacy to start just up the street for me,
Yeah.
in 27. Um, but you can also watch at Drawdown, their away games, and very women's sports friendly. I guess I think the last big topic we haven't touched on yet is Champ Series. We got the rosters now, we got the game schedule. Any predictions, thoughts on who's going to come out on top and on the men's and women's side?
It's always tough to pick with the sixes stuff, 'cause it's like those games can just go any which way. I'm going to be going down again. It's the 2 weekends this year, which I liked kind of the thinking of that. Like obviously pros and cons to it. Cons being I can't go to basically the whole thing anymore. I have to pick one of the 2 weekends. I can't travel. I can't do the
Yeah.
back and forth from Connecticut to DC on back-to-back weekends. I'll get murdered by my wife if I even attempt it. So I'm going to go the second weekend so I can see the playoffs and the championship, but I'll be there from March 5th to 8th in DC to see it because I love going to the event in person. The shift to the 2 weekends, I think like if you're being data driven and smart about it, makes sense. Anybody who was watching those games last year on Tuesday and Wednesday saw a bunch of empty seats, or maybe people who had a hard time getting there right after work or something like that. And anybody who tuned in on Saturday saw a building that was packed that had people going nuts.
Hmm.
So I think it doesn't take a rocket scientist to be like, the PLL is probably thinking, let's have less Tuesdays and more Saturdays and do it this way if we can, make the venue work. So the move to 2 weekends, I think, makes sense. I'm excited to go down. I really like the look of Denver. I really like the look of Carolina's roster too.
Yeah.
I'm excited to get a look at kind of what Carolina looks like with Coach Brooks on the sideline, and it's like I said, it's hard to predict kind of how these things go, just because like they can be such a crapshoot. The games can just be so up and down, and all kinds of different things can happen with somebody getting hot from the right spot and the right point of the game. So I don't know if I would make like a hard and fast prediction. On the women's side, I think, I loved watching Emily Harrischuk play last year because she shoots the ball so incredibly well. I think like the Sydney Black kind of star turn for people like me who don't necessarily consume a ton of the women's game, like, not as much as I would like to, but who's like, you know, not as familiar with some of like the players of Sydney's caliber to see get introduced to that level of dodging ability and athleticism, like in speed. And, it's fun to see, all right, who's going to be this year's sort of star turn player, who's going to make those plays on the first day that have everybody on social media going nuts, like Sydney was doing last year. So that's kind of what I'm looking forward to. Cause I experienced the game kind of in that way from the women's side is I'm looking forward to meet some new stars, just looking forward to meet some new star players.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, do you have any knowledge on if the Atlas have their coach for Champ Series yet? Because Brooks is not doing it anymore.
So I honestly I don't know who's coaching them for the championship series. I think I would hope they name that sometime soon because I know Pressler's got his own thing going on and Brooks is now on a different sideline. So I don't know kind of where that leaves them, but yeah, I would hopefully they announce something soon there.
I kind of hope it's like WWE mystery reveal style. We don't know until they run out of the tunnel.
Yeah, yeah. That's Stone Cold's music.
Yeah.
As long as it's not Brody Merrill.
Yes.
What did Brody Merrill ever do to anybody?
We just want him
He's
coaching.
our guy.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. No, no. We love Brody Merrill. That's why we
Yeah.
don't do New York.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right. All right.
Yeah,
All right.
Another quick question for you. With the 2 weekends now, do you know what's going on with the players? Are they coming into market for a weekend and then going home and then coming back, or are they like staying and practicing in between the weekends?
I would bet some of that is like literally player to player. There's guys who live in
Yeah.
the DC area who will just go home. There's guys who live and work in New York who will have to go back home and go back to work and then come back or whatever. But I would bet that's a player by player thing. Guys who if lacrosse is the only thing you do, by all means come stay, be in DC for the 2 weeks. If you have the day job in New York or wherever else in Boston, wherever you work, and you got to go back home, do that. And if you live in DC, obviously that makes it easier. There's plenty of these guys who live in the DC metro area too. I'd have no idea if that factored into roster construction at all, which is probably an interesting question of, is it easier to take a guy who's going to say, yeah, I can just be in DC for the 2 weeks than the guy who's going to be going back and forth? But yeah, I would bet player by player in terms of how they figure that out.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Makes sense.
Yeah. We'll see if we have any 2 a.m. arrival times like Palasek, what,
Yeah,
that year
Oh,
one or
yeah.
two? Yeah.
dude, if they need him,
Year
call him.
one,
If
yeah.
they need him, he'll
Two.
do it again too. He'll show up, he'll score 4 goals, and
Yep.
it'll be awesome.
Yeah. I think anything else you wanted to ask Casey or Jack while we have Dan here?
I'm all good. I think that covers it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always great talking ball with you. Yeah, so I assume we'll see you in Pawtucket. We'll see you in Fairfield. We'll see you in Boston, and we might see you in Springfield, Virginia. We're not sure if we're coming down for that again or
I
not,
was gonna
but
say, are you guys gonna be there or no?
yeah, TBD. We will be again. We will be there week one, drawdown, watching the pool play games. But
Nice.
yeah, hopefully we can get that flight down. But if not, we will be watching the Guard defend their title in Boston as well. Um, yeah, Dan, thanks for coming on. Always good to talk to
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah, we'll bring you on again soon, I hope.
Love it. Thank you
All
again
right.
for having me. Always a pleasure, guys.
Yeah. All right.
And thanks again to Dan for hopping on. I didn't realize it had been almost 2 years since we had him on that pod. Casey, you were talking to us about it, before we were recording and looking back through the old pods, the genesis of it, and coming back from Champ Series, and just so wild that it's been 2 years since we had brought him on. So definitely glad to have him back on here
Yeah.
talking all forms of lacrosse.
I think especially at this time of year when the college season is getting going, like I don't know how he has time to watch all the lacrosse games to know everything he does about the game at all the level. Like he has a full-time job and 2 children. Like I don't and a partner
Yeah,
who presumably does not love lacrosse as much as he does. Like I don't know where he can find time to know everything he does, but we're so eternally grateful for his scouting and his Will Schaller and Bobby Van Veeren I did know about, but I think every other name was at least a question, if not someone I had not heard of before. But we'll definitely be watching Henry Dodge this year to see how he does for Maryland, and we'll hope that Coach Tillman can strongly recommend him to Coach Ullman.
absolutely. And even those names that you do know, partly you know them because of him. At least
Oh
for
yeah,
me, that, like,
absolutely.
I try to keep up with the college game, especially being involved in the battery, and being we are lacrosse media, but I come at it from a very professional lens, and even there, it's a very Boston lens. So, like, I basically see college lacrosse scores, and if I'm happen to be sitting at home at noon on a Saturday, because that's basically the only time that they play games, I will catch the game and then get the tourney. But, like, the in-depth knowledge of the prospects is just not something that I realistically have time to keep up with. So the fact that there are guys like him and Adam Liberti that I can read an article that they posted in 5 minutes and get all of the knowledge that I need to know as a Cannons fan is just makes my life so much better and so much easier.
Yeah,
Hmm.
100%. Yeah, like even honestly, even like Coach Holman and Bates and everyone in the PLL, like you think about like NHL, NFL, and MLB, like they have whole scouting departments to keep track of, like because it's not just like you can just keep watching like the top 20 schools and D1s, like Mason Woodward from Marquette, which is not like a super huge program, Cross Ferrara from Salisbury, D3, Max Wayne from Christopher Newport, like yeah, like there's just so many great players out there to be aware of, and not to mention like availability, where even if like Will Bowen was such a great player, but was going to be a Wall Street guy, so bowed out after 2 years. Where like, and I'm sure there's other players who have the talent but just don't even get like no, they don't get drafted or whatever because they are just they people know they're going to pursue that Wall Street career. Or, hopefully the player's obviously honest with the people looking at drafting them. It's like, yeah, such an incredible encyclopedic knowledge that we are, yeah, like I said, very grateful for Dan for sharing that with us. And man, Casey, Mitch Jones would be so fun to watch on a PLL field. I just because they just played the Firewolves, which is our favorite team there,
Yeah.
and he did a great night, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, very unfortunate ending for Firewolves and
yeah,
Firewolves fans.
what
But
about you?
Who does Mitch Jones play for? I was really hoping he would say that because I'm like all of these names are just
uh Vegas.
got it. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, I could not, I could
He
see
used to
the
play
black.
for Philly.
Yeah,
But I'm not sure. I think maybe this last season he went over to Vegas.
yeah, they
Um,
kind of revamped their offense a little bit. Hey, he's teammates with Connor Kirst now. Maybe if he wants to come out
yes.
to Boston.
Which Curse, our boy Curse did get a couple of goals recently,
Yep.
in that
There we
game.
go.
So even though I'm a Firewolves fan, I have to also cheer for our Cannons guys at the same time, even if they're
Yeah.
our opposers.
But we're
Yeah,
definitely
But
hoping
yeah,
that
yeah,
Vegas and Vancouver, where Owen Grant plays, will not have long playoff runs.
totally, totally changing the topic here, kind of rambling a little bit. But did you guys read that article that Arestia posted? I think like the Christmas wish list or whatever
For
in
the
December
combined
about
league.
having the combined PLL NLL league. So it's like the Cannons play indoors and outdoors, and you have some guys that are indoor only, some guys that are outdoor only, and some guys that are
Yeah.
both. I was like,
hmm
that's legit.
interesting.
That will like that. You guys know it very well. Like, I need a box team in Boston to fully be able to get into the NLL. If that team was literally just the Cannons, I mean, like,
Yeah.
count me in immediately.
I think you would literally need like $50 billion to buy everyone out and build all the venues and whatever. But man, would it be so cool.
Ugh,
Joe
it,
Tsai is maybe the only person who could do it, and I think even he realizes
Right.
it's a little crazy.
one can dream though.
One can indeed dream. Um,
Until then, we'll just hope that the Blazers come back.
Absolutely, yeah. That's a very acceptable compromise. Yes, well, thank Dan again for coming on. Yeah, always such a great person to listen to. Obviously, follow him, listen to his Sticks In podcast, his Sticks In website, follow him on Twitter. Um, if I didn't plug it enough during the episode, come to Drawdown Brewery to watch the Boston Guard games on February 27th, 28th. Uh, when's the other one?
6
March.
p.m. February 27th, noon February 28th, 6 p.m. March 6th.
Thank
The
you.
two 6 p.m. games are Fridays. The noon game is Saturday.
Yep.
Drawdown is in Jamaica Plain.
Make a plane. Yep, it's about a 7 minute walk off Stony Brook, the Stony Brook shop. There's also free street parking all around. Um,
We love that.
yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
All right, we will keep plugging that. We'll be back in another couple weeks. Hopefully, we'll get one more in before Champ Series starts. Yeah, always good to be on with all of you talking lacrosse. And until next time, go Cannons.
Go Cannons and
Go Cannons.
Pats.
Yes, go
Yes, go
Patriots.
Pats.
All right, yeah. All right. Boom.
Boom.